Jai Hind everyone, myself is Anuj Kumar and I am the Assistant Professor in Computer Science and Engineering Department in Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. Today we are discussing here another topic, that is the Java networking. We have to be share the data between the device to device or between system to system. So how we can be do this with the help of the Java. So it is a part of the web technology, and the content today we have to be covered. Firstly, we discuss the Java networking. Firstly, we have to be discussed what is the IP address and the logical address, and what is the difference between logical address and IP address. Second one is the what is the IPv4 and what is the IPv6, and what is the difference between IPv4 and IPv6, and where we use IPv4 and IPv6. Then we have to be discussed the networking in Java. Then what are the different type of the packages when we are use the Java. So what are the different networking packages we use in the Java, and then we have to be discuss the inet address classes and the types of the inet address classes. So firstly, we have to be discussed to what is the logical address and what is the IP addresses. So the internet protocol address is that is a 32-bit length. जो भी यूज करते हैं डेटा को कैरी करते हैं that is a 32-bit length, and it gives a maximum number of the 2 की power 32 addresses. Means where it is a 32-bit length, so it can be provided the addresses. How many addresses? These are the 2 की power 32, and these addresses are to be referred to as IP version 4 or simply the IP addresses. जो भी addresses हमें यहाँ पे 2 की power 32 we have to be provided, so it is referred to the IPv4 addresses, or we have to saying that that is the simply IP addresses. Next, this means that if we have no restrictions, then more than 4 billion devices will be connected to the internet with the help of this. But today, nowadays, devices are increase, we have to need more IP addresses. So IP addresses stand for the internet protocol addresses, and it is a unique number to provide. What is it? It is a unique number to provide to the every devices. When we have to be multiple devices are be connected to the internet, so every devices has a unique IP addresses, or we can say that every devices has a unique number, and it is in form of the intrinsic number and separated by the dot. ये क्या होगा? एक हमारा इंट्रिंसिक नंबर होगा जो हमेशा सेपरेटेड किसके थ्रू होगा? विद द हेल्प ऑफ द डॉट. नंबर्स होगा जो हमने अभी डिस्कस किया 192.168.10.20. तो दिस इज द IP version 4, just like this 192.165.10.20. When we have to be discuss the addresses, it has two types. One is the logical address and one is the physical address. I'm not to be going into the depth what is the logical address and what is the physical address. In the simply when if I'm talking about the CPU से जो हमने एक जनरेट किया है that is a logical address, और जब ये that will be stored into the memory के पास जाता है तो यही convert किसमें होता है? That is the physical address. So when we are talking about the type of addresses, it is the logical address and it is the physical addresses. Next, what is the version? We are using the two type of the version. One is IP version 4 and second we are using the IP version 6. Here we are to be discussed when we are using the IP version 4, so 4 billions devices will be connected. So nowadays every person has a mobile phone, every systems in the networking connections. So everyone you have to be use multiple number of the IP addresses for a single person. When it increase, so we use the IP version 6. So these are the tools. What is the difference between IP version 4 and the IP version 3? IP version 4 is composed with the 32-bit address length, and it is fourth version of the IP protocol, internet protocol, where PV6 version 6, it's 128-bit addresses, means we have to be connect more than systems in comparison to the IP version 4. And it is the latest updated version of the internet protocol. So if we are using the IP version, it provides the sufficient number of the addresses so that we can be connected to every devices. When we are talking to version 4, so version 4 has basically the four fields. So we have to be discussed. We have to the 4 field 1, 2, 3, and 4, and each field is separated by a dot. Here it is addresses alphanumeric based and consist with the colon. ये separated किससे होगा? By a colon से होगा. Next, its range is 2 to sorry, its range is 0 to 255, and it has 8 octet. It has 8 octet and each has 16 bits. यहाँ पे means कि क्या होगा कि जितना भी अगर मैं यहाँ पे बात करूं इस versions के लिए we have topic, this is the 4 and it is divided into the 8 parts, 8 octet, and each octet has a 16 bits. Means हर एक octet के पास कितना होगा, that has a 16 bits device. In case of the IP version 4, there is no encryption or authentication services initiated. But here in the IP version 6, encryption and authentications services are provided for the addresses. When we are talking about the IP version 4, we have to be defined by the numbers, means 192.168. And here we have to be defined its two hexadecimal numbers, means 0 to 4 times X, means it has been 65535. And next one, in case of IP version 4, it has 5 type of the address classes: class A, class B, class C, and the class E. But here in sorry, in version 6, there is no type of the addresses classes include any type. When we are using the IP version 6, there are no type of the classes. But here, when we are using the IP version 4, we are using class A, maybe class B, maybe class C, class D, and class E. Clear? As we have to be discussed, it is a combination of the hexadecimal, but here it is a combination of the digits which is divided into the 4 parts, just like this. And here it is a 16-bit or 8 divided into the 8 octet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And each octet has a 16-bit. Okay, so for in the future, when we are the devices are increased, so we are using the IP6 in comparison to the IP version 4. So these are the some basic classes. But another one is that is the classful addressing. What is the classful addressing? When we are talking about the version 4 addressing, the concept we have to use the classes and the architecture is known as the classful addressing. Means कि IP addressing use the concept of classes and the architecture. यही हमने अभी डिस्कस किया कि it has used 5 types of the classes: class A, class B, class C, and class D. So here it used the concept of classes and their architecture is known as the classful addressing. And in version 4, what it will be provide? It is provide the 32-bit. So IA 32-bit IP version 4 is a hierarchical and divided into the 2 parts. जब भी यहाँ पे होगा 32 bits का होगा कि it is divided into the 2 parts. We are saying that one is prefix, second one is the suffix, and it is what is the length? Its total length is the 32-bit. So if prefix is the n size, so remaining is used for the suffix, that is the 32 minus n. The first part of the address is known as prefix and defined also known as the networking ID. तो इसको हम किस में define करते हैं? That is the networking ID. And second part is also known as the suffix and define the node. Sorry, this is 9-bit. Define a node connection to a device to the internet, and that is known as the host ID. Means when we are talking about a address, so every address is divided into the 2 part. कभी भी सुना होगा दो ही चीजों की बात करते हैं, network ID, host ID, network ID and the host ID. So we have to be defined it simply. So this is completely when we have to talking about the class, so it is known as the classful addressing. In here, that is the class A. It has 8-bit. Class B, I am not going into the detail, but it is shortly class B. It has 16-bit. Class C, that is 32 bits, and its range is 0 to 127, means just like 125.255.23. Here, and class B में we have to be defined the ranges 128 to 129. We can be defined this, and here class C range is 192 to 223, and class D, that is 224 to 229, or class E is 240 to 250. So mostly we are using class A, class B, or class C. We are using any one of these 3. Now we are talking about the Java networking. When we are talking about these 2 words, one is Java, second one is the networking. Means if we have to be work on the more than one devices and we have to be sharing the data, then we are using the Java networking. So it is a concept to connect 2 or more computing devices together so that we can share the resources. और जावा नेटवर्किंग के अंदर हम किसका यूज करते हैं? वी यूज द जावा सॉकेट प्रोग्रामिंग टू प्रोवाइड द फैसिलिटी टू शेयर द डेटा बिटवीन द डिफरेंट कंप्यूटिंग devices. Okay, so in the Java networking we have two or more computing devices that are connected together so that we can be used or we can be share the resources. And for share the resources we are using the socket programming. We have to be with the help of the socket programming we can be exchange the data. Simply अगर हम एक chat server की बात करते हैं, मीन्स एक सर्वर है हमारे पास कि हमने एक चैट करना स्टार्ट किया, कोई भी मैसेज यहाँ पे टाइप किया वो किसको डिस्प्ले होगा? इन द अनदर का रेस्पॉन्स क्या चीज होगा? मुझे फर्स्ट डिवाइसेस के ऊपर अप्लाई होगा. तो ये क्या है? दैट इज द शेयरिंग द डेटा फ्रॉम वन डिवाइस टू द अनदर डिवाइस. एंड फॉर दिस वी आर यूजिंग द सॉकेट प्रोग्रामिंग. अब व्हाट आर द एडवांटेजेस ऑफ यूज दिस? वी आर यूजिंग फर्स्ट वन वी हैव टू बी शेयरिंग द रिसोर्सेज. सेकंड वन इज द इट इज ए सेंट्रलाइज्ड सॉफ्टवेयर management. There are the some type of the packages that we are used in the networking. Number one, we are using the inet address classes. अभी जो मैंने डिस्कस किया था कि हम किसको एक डिस्कस करेंगे, what is the inet address classes and its type. Second one, we are using the URL. Otherwise, we are using the URL connection, URL class loader, socket, server socket, socket address, socket permission, datagram packets, and the datagram sockets. So these are the different type of the packages that we use in the Java. Or Java provide the for the in the networking we are using the different type of the packages. Okay, so what is the inet addressing? So it represent a IP address. Basically, inet addresses is like a IP address that provide the methods to get the IP address of the any host device. जब हम यहाँ पे we have to be connected the devices, so when it has a IP address, it has another IP address. If we want to find out the host name of the any devices, so we are using any type of the packages. Or here we are talking about only right now either inet addresses. So it is provide the methods. It has the various methods through which we can be find out the host name of the IP address. Second one, inet address classes represent a IP address. इसको भी मैंने डिस्कस किया कि inet address class क्या है? It is a IP addresses. तो inet addresses classes represent the IP addresses. In the Java dot, जब भी हम यहाँ पे मुझे इसको यूज करना है तो हम Java के अंदर यूज करते हैं, तो it will be use the Java dot net and dot inet addresses. It is a package when we are using the Java networking and we are using the inet address classes. So we have to be define java.net.inet addresses. What is the that provide the method to get the IP address, to get the IP address of the any host name. Means कि जो भी किया या तो मुझे सर्वर का होस्ट नेम पता करना है या फिर we have to be find out the host name of the client server. IP addresses is represented 32-bit or 128-bit unsigned number. Means we are using the IP version 4 or we are using the IP version 6. In the inet addresses classes, it used to encapsulate both the numeric IP address and the domain name for that address. ये यहाँ पे numeric IP addresses और domain जो दोनों चीजें हैं कि दोनों चीजों में क्या करता है? encapsulate करता है. और we can say that कि inet addresses classes use the encapsulations. In the inet addresses classes, it has no visible constructor. Means when we are using the Java, so when we are using the classes, so it has a constructor, that is a default constructor or that is a parameterized constructor. But in the inet address classes, it has no visible constructor. Means that means we cannot create object directly. If we are using the inet address classes, it has no visible constructor. Means we cannot be create the object directly. If we want to create the object of the inet address classes, then what we do? We use the factory methods. We use the factory methods. Then we have to be create the object of the inet addresses classes. Without the factory methods, we cannot be create the object. So we can say that inet addresses classes has no visible constructor. Okay. And what are the different types of the address classes? There are the two types of the address classes. Number one is the unicast. Second one is the multicast. In the unicast, it is an identifier for a single interface. If we are using a single interface, then we are using the which type of the INET address classes, that is the unicast. But if we have to be, it is a identifier for a set of the interface. Means if we are using the multiple number of the addresses, then we are using the multiple cast. And if we are using the single number of the addresses, if we have a single address, then we use the unicast. Okay. Just simply ki abhi we have to be discussed if we want to create, we cannot be create the object directly of the INET address classes. If we want to create the object of the INET address classes, what we use the factory methods. So what are the factory methods? So there are the three type of the methods that is hold. These are the factory methods. What is first one? It means first one is the get local host. First one is the get local host. Second one is the get by name. Third one is the get all by name. These are the factory methods. If we want to create the object of the INET address classes, we use any one type of the factory method. So what is the difference between these two? If we are talking about the get local host, so get local host क्या करता है कि it simply return the INET address objects. Simply, if we are using this get local host, तो ये simply हमको return क्या करेगा? That is simply return a INET address objects that represent the local host. कि जो किसको represent करेगा? Local host को represent करेगा. Second one, if we are using the get by name, so what it will be written? This method, just a minute. Get by name, what it method will be written the INET addresses for a host name passed to it. Means कि जो यहाँ पे एक ऑब्जेक्ट ये होगा, ये यहाँ पे क्या करेगा, उसका एक होस्ट नेम को क्रिएट करेगा, जो होस्ट नेम किसको दे देगा, यहाँ पे इसके ऑब्जेक्ट्स को प्रोवाइड कर देगा. ओके और अगर इफ एवरी दीज टू मेथड, तो थ्री मेथड जितने भी है यहाँ पे नेक्स्ट वाले में क्या करेगा, गेट ऑल बाय names. Means we have to be connected more than one devices, then it will provide the address host name of the all the machines, all the devices. In both three exception, if it will not be provided, it will not be return the object, it will not be return the host name, or it will be not return the all the host name of the devices, then it means it all three methods may be throw an exception. So when it is used throw an exception, so we use throws, or which type of the exception, that is the unknown host name. So every here we have writing here ki every methods should be throw an exception, so we use and which use throws, and which type of the exception is, that is the unknown host exception. Okay, just we are simply a program. If we have to be using the Java, we have to be create a class, that is iDemo. We are using the IO package, input output, and second one you use the import java.net package. We have to be declare the static method public static void main string us exception throw कर रहे हैं. We are using the try and catch. So what we do, we are using the INET address classes. We create a instance object IP, which one? INET address classes. Up we have to be create the instance object of the create classes. So we are using the any one of the methods. So we are here using the get by name. Get by name. We are using the get by name. In the brackets, we have to be define the host name, and host name will be the string type. So here we have to be define. We have to be find out the host name of the www.google.com, and it will be the string. Now we have to be print system.out.println. What is we print? We have to be find out its host name. So we have to be apply the IP.get host name. Same here, if we have to be find out the addresses, so same here we have to be apply the IP.get host name addresses. So we have to be calculate or find out the host name and the address of that device. Otherwise, it will be goes to the catch, that is the exception, and system.out.println, that is a E. E means if it throws an exception, so it will be not going into the try block, then it will be come into the catch block and it will be print the e and this type of the unknown is exception is the means here we have to be print the unknown host exception. Okay, so this is a simply code ki when we have to be connect our Java program and we have to be find out the addresses of the that machine, or we have to be find out the address of the host name. So we are using the factory method, or we can say that we are using the inet address classes. But here in the inet address classes, if we have to be create, so it has no visible constructor, means we want to be create the object, so we are using the फैक्ट्री मेथड. तीनों मेथड्स में हम किसी भी मेथड्स को यहाँ पे प्रिंट कर सकते हैं. आई एम यूजिंग द गेट लोकल होस्ट, हियर यूजिंग द गेट बाय नेम, और हियर वी आर यूजिंग द गेट ऑल बाय द नेम्स. मोर देन वन नेम, तो इट विल बी द टाइप ऑफ द एरे टाइप. ओके, तो जस्ट हियर इज सिंपली कोड कि inet एड्रेस क्लासेस हमने यूज किया. inet एड्रेस क्लासेस का है यूज किया, पब्लिक स्टैटिक वॉइड मेन एक्सेप्शन थ्रो कर सकता है. तो थ्रो कौन सा किया, अभी डिस्कस किया था, अननोन होस्ट एक्सेप्शन किया. हियर वी हैव टू बी डिफाइंड फर्स्टली inet एड्रेस क्लासेस, और सिर्फ किसको किया, एड्रेस, एंड दैट इज द inet एड्रेस डॉट गेट लोकल होस्ट. हमने वहां पे सिर्फ किसको यूज किया, किसका, दैट इज द गेट लोकल होस्ट. अब क्या किया, सिस्टम डॉट आउट डॉट प्रिंटलन, और किसको प्रिंट करा दिया, इस एड्रेस को प्रिंट करा दिया. तो जब बाय डिफॉल्ट जब इस एड्रेस को प्रिंट किया तो उसने वहां पे जो भी उसका एक एड्रेस था, ये क्या क्रिएट करेगा, एक ऑब्जेक्ट को वहां पे थ्रो करेगा. तो उसके पास जो भी एड्रेसेस था उसने यहाँ पे एड्रेसेस को थ्रो किया. सेकेंड वन, व्हाट वी डू, वी हैव टू बी एड्रेस अप्लाई किया, गेट बाय नेम किसका करना था, यहाँ पे उसको स्ट्रिंग टाइप में पास किया, और वो क्या कर देगा, मुझे अब उसका एड्रेसेस प्रोवाइड कर देगा. तो सिमिलरली हियर अब मुझे क्या करना है, मोर देन वन का यूज करना है, तो वी हैव टू बी अप्लाई द गेट ऑल बाय द नेम्स, और जितने भी हैं यहाँ पे इनके मैंने एड्रेसेस यहाँ पे प्रोवाइड किए, जितने भी ऑल नेम्स हैं, तो ये क्या करेगा, मैंने एक लूप चलाया यहाँ पे और सिस्टम में क्या प्रिंट कर दिया, दैट इज द SWI. तो जितने भी एड्रेसेस क्लासेस होंगे, जितनी बार ये यहाँ पे रिपीट्स होगा, फर्स्ट टाइम चला NBA उसका एड्रेस उठाया, एड्रेस क्या है प्रिंट कर दिया, नेक्स्ट टाइम वो क्या करेगा, उसका एड्रेस प्रिंट करेगा. मींस एवरी टाइम जब भी वो कनेक्टेड होगा तो एवरी डिवाइस हैज ए यूनिक एड्रेसेस, तो वो इन सभी एड्रेसेस को वहां पे प्रिंट कर देगा. ओके, one more another thing is that is the instance method. We are using the factory methods or we are using the instance method. So there are the some instance method. Number one is the equals and its return type is the boolean. So it return true if the object have the same inet address as other. अगर दो ऑब्जेक्ट्स हैं अब सेम, उनका एड्रेस क्या है, सेम है, तो किसका हम यूज कर सकते हैं, दैट इज द इक्वल. सेकंड वन इज द byte get addresses. It return a byte array that represent the object's IP address network byte order. Next one is the string host address. It return a string that represent the host address associated with the inet addresses classes. Same here we are using the string get host name. It also return a string that represent the host name associated with the inet objects. And last one is that is the multicast IP multicast addresses. So in the multicast addresses, it returns true if the addresses is multicast addresses, otherwise it returns the false. And last one is the toString. It also return a string that lists the host name and the IP addresses for the convenience. So here we are using, otherwise we are using the factory methods or we are using the instance method. Okay, so what are the instance method? So instance method are the method which required an object. जब भी हम instance method की बात करते हैं, means it required an object of the class to be created before it can be called. Means कि when we have to be call the instance method, कि किसी भी एक instance method को जब call करेंगे तो we have to be a class and we have to be create the object of the class. To invoke in instance method, we have to be create an object of the class. तो हमें उसका क्या क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा, उस क्लास का एक ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा. Every individual objects created from the class, जितने भी है कि क्लास के हम मल्टीपल वहाँ पे ऑब्जेक्ट्स क्रिएट कर सकते हैं, और हर एक इंडिविजुअल ऑब्जेक्ट्स क्या होगा कि जब भी वहाँ पे क्रिएट होगा, इट हैज ओन कॉपी ऑफ द इंस्टेंस मेथड. मीन्स हर एक के पास क्या होगी, उसकी ओन कॉपी होगी ऑफ द इंस्टेंस मेथड, और इट कैन बी ओवर राइटेबल. मीन्स कि वो क्या कर सकते हैं, उसको कॉपी कर सकते हैं, override by the instance method of the सब क्लास। और सब क्लास के अंदर जो भी मेरा एक इंस्टेंस मेथड होगा, मैं इस इंस्टेंस मेथड को क्या कर सकता हूँ, वी हैव टू बी ओवरराइड। तो व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द स्टैटिक एंड द instance method? The static method are the method in the Java that can be called without creating a object. Already we have to be declare static, means we have no need to create the object of the class. We have to be directly call the methods. We cannot be create the objects. They are referred as a class name itself. It means जब हमने ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं किया, हम डायरेक्टली उसको कहां से कॉल करते हैं, उसके क्लास के करते हैं। क्लास को डिफाइन करने के लिए क्या होगा, क्लास नेम डॉट मेथड्स नेम होगा और ब्रैकेट्स में क्या होंगे, उसके आर्गुमेंट्स होंगे। तो these are designed with the aim to be shared among all the objects created for the same classes. तो static methods cannot be override. Static method को हम override नहीं कर सकते, but these method can be the overloading. So here in the init address classes, when we are to be talking about, we are using the factory method, or otherwise we are using the instance method. So when we are using the instance method, instance means we have to be create the objects, and where we have to be create the objects of the classes. Okay, so these are the we have to be covered init address classes and in types of the addresses classes. So in the next session we have to be define how we use the instance method or the static method in the Java network.